Have you ever woken up and realized you're not living your life? You're just surviving in someone else's. You were never meant to spend your best years upgrading her dreams while letting yours decay. But you did. And now you're wondering why you're exhausted, bitter, invisible, why everything you've given still wasn't enough to make her stay. If you've ever built a life that doesn't feel like yours, if you've ever sacrificed everything just to be needed, then this video is for you. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a wake-up call, it's a funeral. For the version of you who lived for validation, and the birth of the man who finally chooses to live for himself. And before we go any further, let me tell you a story. There was a man, just like you. He gave everything. His time, his dreams, his strength. He thought love meant being the hero, the provider, the emotional anchor. He thought if he made her life easier, she'd stay. But she didn't. Because she didn't fall in love with his sacrifice. She fell out of love with the man who forgot to love himself. That man? He could still be you, but only if you refuse to change. So if any part of this feels like your story, if you've looked in the mirror and seen a man disappearing, comment below. I choose to build myself first. Like this video, and share it with the brother who's still asleep. Because today isn't about blame. It's about reclaiming. Let's begin. You thought you were building a future. But what you were really building was a throne. Not for you, but for her. You gave her your time, your money, your loyalty, your strength. And then you sat on the cold floor beneath the very throne you built. You told yourself it was love. You called it loyalty. You wore your sacrifice like a medal. But deep down, you knew something was wrong, because while her life got brighter, yours got smaller. While she leveled up, you faded. You convinced yourself that this was what real men do. But tell me something. What did you build for you? Where's your kingdom? Where's your peace? Where's your identity? You weren't born to be a background character in someone else's empire. You were born to build, to lead, to shape something that has your name on it. But instead, you became a subcontractor for her dreams. You managed her emotions, funded her lifestyle, cheered her victories, while abandoning your own blueprint. And here's the brutal truth. She didn't even ask you to do it. You offered it up. Why? Because you thought that's what love was. Because you thought being needed meant being worthy. But the problem with building someone else's kingdom is that one day they may leave. And when they do, they take the castle, while you're left with the rubble. And in that silence, when everything you built is no longer yours, you'll realize what you've always ignored. You never built for you. You never built with your name on the gate. You never built a life where you belong at the center. You outsourced your purpose. And now you wonder why you feel empty. But here's the good news. Your story doesn't have to end here. You can rebuild on your own terms, with your own mission. But first, you have to stop lying to yourself. Stop calling sacrifice strategy. Stop calling servitude strength. Stop pretending this is the life you wanted. Comment below. This was me, but I'm done. Because this time, we're building your kingdom. You thought you were saving her, but what you were really doing was abandoning yourself. Every time she cried, you came running. Every time she struggled, you picked up the pieces. Every time she wavered, you gave more. Not because she needed a savior, but because you needed to be needed. You told yourself it was noble. You called it love. You said, this is what real men do. But here's the truth. Real men don't save women to feel alive. Real men save themselves first, so they don't bleed out trying to fix others. You see, the savior complex is seductive. It whispers, she'll love you more if you rescue her. It tells you that her chaos is your purpose, but it's a lie. A beautiful, destructive lie that robs you of the one mission that actually matters, your own. And what's worse, you weren't just trying to save her from her problems. You were trying to save yourself from yours. From loneliness, from rejection, from the terrifying silence of standing alone. Because if you stay busy fixing her life, You don't have to admit that your own life is broken. If you pour yourself into her story, you never have to write your own. That's not love. That's escapism with a hero's mask. And what does she see? She sees a man who can't hold his own ground. She sees a man who builds his identity around being her lifeline. And over time, she starts to pull away. Not because she's ungrateful, but because she knows she's not following a man, she's dragging a martyr. Let me tell you something that might hurt, but might also free you. No woman wants to mother the man who was supposed to lead. No woman respects a man who turns her into his mission. No woman feels safe with a man who disappears into the role of fixer. So why are you still playing that part? You weren't born to rescue. You were born to build. You were born to confront your own chaos, not distract yourself with hers. So kill the savior complex. Kill it before it kills you. And if you've ever lost yourself in trying to fix someone else, comment below, "I've played the savior, and I'm done." Because until you stop trying to rescue others, you'll never reclaim the man you were meant to be. It's easy to point the finger, to say, "She used me," to call her selfish, manipulative, and ungrateful. But what if that's not the truth? What if the truth is harder to swallow? What if she didn't use you? You gave it all away. Not because she asked, not because she forced you, but because you believed that being needed was the same as being loved. You over-delivered before she even asked. You solved problems she never mentioned. You showed up like a warrior, for a war that wasn't yours. You kept pouring, not to fill her cup, but to distract from your own emptiness. And here's the irony. She might have appreciated you at first, but eventually, she saw it. She saw that you weren't giving from strength. You were giving from fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of building something that might fail if it was just yours. And when she saw that fear, she lost respect. Not because she's cruel, not because she's heartless, but because no one respects a man who refuses to respect himself. You made yourself small, thinking it would make her stay. You bent so far that you disappeared. And when you finally looked up, she was gone. Not because she used you, but because she no longer recognized you. You traded authenticity for approval. You traded boundaries for proximity. You traded leadership for dependency. And here's the part most men never admit. You were never trapped. You volunteered. You signed the contract. You kept saying yes. You ignored every red flag waving inside your own soul. So stop blaming her. This isn't about her. This is about you. Because if you don't own your part, you'll do it again. Different woman, same pattern, different name, same cycle. So take a breath. Look in the mirror and say it with clarity, not shame. She didn't use me. I gave it away. And then follow it with power. But I'm done doing that. Comment below if you're ready to own your story. I gave it away. But never again. Because ownership is the first step toward freedom. And you're not a victim anymore. You're a man reclaiming himself. You say you're tired. You say you're lost. You say you're stuck. But the truth is, you're not any of those things. You're avoiding. Avoiding the silence. Avoiding the mirror. Avoiding the one question you don't want to ask. What if the life I built isn't really mine? That question, it terrifies you. Because if the answer is yes, then everything you've sacrificed, everything you've endured, wasn't for love. It was for a lie. A lie that told you comfort was more important than purpose. That being needed was more noble than being whole. That disappearing for someone else's happiness was somehow heroic. You've mastered the art of running. Running into relationships, running into busyness, running into distractions, but when the noise dies down, when the room is quiet, you feel it. That ache, that emptiness, that truth you've buried under years of self-sacrifice. You never built your life, you just maintained hers. And here's what hurts the most. You thought avoiding the pain would protect you, but it only prolonged your suffering, because you can't heal from a wound you refuse to look at. You can't rebuild what you won't admit is broken. You can't be the man you're meant to be if you keep pretending this version of you is enough, and I know. Facing that pain feels like death, but let me tell you what's worse. living your whole life as a ghost, a man who was always there, but never fully alive. So stop. Sit with the silence. Let it speak. Let it hurt, because buried inside that pain is your truth. And on the other side of truth is freedom. If you're ready to stop avoiding the pain, if you're ready to face the man you've been running from, comment below. I choose truth over comfort. Because real men don't run. Real men return to the fire, to the wound, to themselves. The old you is gone. The man who gave everything away. The man who bent until he broke. The man who forgot his mission so he could play the hero. He's dead. But that doesn't mean your story's over. It means it's just beginning. Because from the ashes of who you were, you now get to rebuild. Not for her. Not for applause. Not for a chance to be needed again. But for you. This is where it starts. Not with revenge, not with proving anyone wrong, but with reclaiming what you abandoned. Your discipline, your vision, your strength, your name. Step 1, rebuild your body. Not because she left, but because it's yours. Because discipline starts in the flesh. Step 2, rebuild your mind. Feed it truth. Starve it of the lies that told you your worth was external. Step 3, rebuild your mission. That dream you shelved, dust it off. The business you were too scared to start, begin. The skill you never mastered, train. Because a man without a mission is a man who will always lose himself in someone else's. And as you rebuild, something powerful happens. You stop seeking validation. You stop craving comfort. You stop asking others to tell you who you are. You become the man who answers his own questions. You become the man who wakes up with fire again. You become the man who stands tall even when no one is watching. And when that man walks into a room, people notice. Not because he's loud. Not because he begs to be seen, but because he radiates ownership. So start today. Pick one area of your life and build. One habit, one promise, one brick. Because every empire begins with the first stone laid in silence. Comment below. I rebuild from here. No more waiting, no more wasting. Just work, just mission, just you, finally, fully, unapologetically you. You've been told your whole life what a real man looks like. Tough, silent, selfless to the point of self-destruction, the provider, the protector, the one who never asks for anything in return. But let me ask you something. If being a man means disappearing for everyone else's comfort, if masculinity means burning out just to keep others warm, then what exactly are you leading? Because masculinity without mission is just martyrdom in disguise. It's time to redefine what it means to be a man. Not according to broken cultures or outdated expectations, but according to truth, according to purpose, according to who you were born to be. A real man doesn't exist to serve emotion. He exists to channel it, to turn pain into progress, fear into fire. He doesn't run from hardship, he becomes harder to break. But here's what no one told you. Masculinity is not about how much you can endure. It's about what you build while enduring it. It's not about how much you can give away. It's about how deep your roots grow when no one is clapping. And no, it's not about controlling women or performing for them or dying to impress them. It's about leading yourself so well that others naturally follow. A real man builds a foundation before he invites anyone to stand on it. A real man sets standards, clear, firm, and unwavering, not to dominate, but to protect the ground he fought so hard to claim. So let's throw away the lie that sacrifice alone makes you noble. Let's throw away the story that says you have to break to prove your love. Let's redefine masculinity as power with purpose, presence with principles, sacrifice with standards. Because when you own that kind of masculinity, you don't chase anyone, they come to you. And not because you begged for attention, but because they feel safe in your structure. They feel inspired by your direction, they feel challenged by your vision. So if you're ready to rewrite the definition of manhood, one brick, one boundary, one battle at a time, comment below. I define my masculinity. Because the world doesn't need another man who disappears to be liked. The world needs men who stand and never shrink again. You want to lead. You want respect. You want people to follow your vision, trust your voice, believe in your presence. But here's the truth no one tells you. Leadership doesn't begin when others notice you. It begins when you notice you. You don't become a leader the day someone calls you one. You become a leader the day you take full ownership of your life, even when no one's watching, because leadership isn't a title. It's not charisma. It's not being loud or dominant. Leadership is discipline. It's responsibility. It's consistency when the crowd is gone and the cameras are off. And if you can't lead yourself, through your emotions, through your distractions, through your fears, then you're not ready to lead anyone else. You want your woman to follow you? Start by following through on your own word. You want your friends to trust you? Start by trusting your own direction. You want the world to believe in your mission? Start by acting like it's real, before anyone else does. Because self-leadership is magnetic. People are drawn to those who know where they're going, and walk like they mean it. You don't need to beg for influence. You just need to embody conviction. You don't need to demand loyalty. You just need to be loyal to your purpose. And here's the beautiful part. Once you lead yourself well, everything else starts to align. Decisions get clearer, boundaries get stronger, relationships get healthier, because you're no longer waiting for others to validate your voice. You've already claimed it. So ask yourself this: are you living in a way that you would follow? If not, change it. Today. Comment below, I lead myself first. Because every legacy begins with inner leadership, and the man who leads himself will never need to chase control. You kept giving, kept trying, kept explaining yourself, hoping, praying she would finally see you. But that wasn't strength, that wasn't love, that was begging. And begging never builds respect. It burns it. You thought persistence would win her over. You thought loyalty would keep her. But what you really needed wasn't more effort. It was more boundaries. You see, boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks you control. They say, this is who I am, this is what I allow, this is where I draw the line. And without them, you become a doormat dressed like a provider. You become emotionally bankrupt, funding everyone else's comfort. You weren't abandoned because you had too many standards. You were abandoned because you had none. Because the moment you made her comfort your compass, you stopped being the man she could follow. You became the man she had to carry. And no woman wants to carry the man who can't stand for himself. So let's make it plain. It's not your job to constantly prove your worth. It's not your job to shrink so she feels bigger. It's not your job to sacrifice identity for intimacy. It's your job to protect your energy, to define your terms, to be the gatekeeper of your own soul. Because when you live without boundaries, you teach people that your value is negotiable, that your time is free, that your love costs nothing. And when love costs nothing, it's treated like nothing. So stop begging to be seen, start demanding with your presence, not your words, that you matter. You don't need to yell, you don't need to chase. You just need to draw the line, and mean it. So take a moment. Write down 3 boundaries you've ignored. 3 lines you must protect moving forward, and comment below. My boundaries are sacred, because the man who guards his space commands his world. You've heard enough. You've nodded. You've felt the sting of truth hit your chest again and again. But now it's time for the part you've been avoiding. The decision. Because if you walk away from this video unchanged, if you scroll to the next clip and go back to your patterns, then nothing you just felt will matter. You'll wake up next year in the same place, same emptiness, same excuses, same life that never truly belonged to you. And that would be the real tragedy. Not that she left, not that you gave too much, but that you knew and still did nothing. You have one life, one chance to rebuild, one opportunity to become the man you were always meant to be. So here's the final wake-up call. You are not a victim. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too late, too old, too far gone. You are responsible. You are capable. You are needed. Not by her, not by the world, but by the man inside you screaming to be remembered. The one who had dreams before he had obligations. The one who had fire before it was doused by people-pleasing. The one who had purpose before he traded it for proximity. He's still in there. And he's waiting for you to stop pretending this numb life is all there is. So take back your name. Take back your time. Take back your dignity. Not with rage, not with blame, but with relentless, sacred self-respect. Because no one's coming to save you. And the man who understands that is already halfway rebuilt. If this message broke something open in you, don't just feel it. Don't just agree. Act. Comment below. This is where I begin. Then share this with a brother who's still in the dark. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Not just for more content, but to remind yourself, you're done playing small. You're done living asleep. Because the men who change the world start by rebuilding their own.